New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello and welcome back to Global Focus Today. I am Reverend Dr. Sharri Johnson, your host. And as you know, we have never done the same thing twice, even when people came back more than once. So today we have a truly unique guest. Lara Brzezinski is a religious science practitioner, but she has a very interesting path. Let me tell you a little bit about her before she starts talking. She's a passionate, I just love this line. I'm going to have this needle pointed on a pillow for you. Lara Brzezinski is a passionate serial entrepreneur. Isn't that a great phrase? Serial entrepreneur. She thrives on sharing her love for others and her joy in life. She's a religious science practitioner who currently leads the global prayer team at New Thought Media Network, of which I, of course, am a member. And she passionately combines her spiritual wisdom and dedication with uplifting others. And she does this through the power of prayer. Driven by a thirst for knowledge and personal growth, she constantly challenges herself to embrace whatever's next on the journey towards becoming the best version of herself. And currently, her focus lies in her coaching business, which is called Radiant Joy Coaching. Isn't that wonderful? Radiant Joy, where she empowers women to create more joy in their lives. We're coming back to that in just a second. Lara is deeply committed to helping women understand the importance of prioritizing themselves first through self-acceptance, self-care, and self-love, which, by the way, are three different forms of prayer. By embracing these principles, women gain the strength, courage, and energy to care for others while still honoring their own needs. She believes firmly that by consciously and intentionally choosing joy, individuals can create the life of their dreams. Radiant joy. Gosh, I love that. So what made you, in your series of entrepreneurial endeavors, what made you pick coaching, and in particular, what made you pick coaching women? Because we're not easy.
Well, I know women better than I know men, so I figured I would start there. And it happened through just naturally providing support and guidance to my friends and to fellow women entrepreneurs. And I've always been a teacher, even in my path of my different jobs that I've had. My first teaching role was as a ski instructor, which I did for 8 seasons, starting at age 14. And in my culinary career, I taught cooking classes. I taught people that came to work for me. I taught other cooks that were under my supervision. I was always coaching and guiding and teaching. And I loved that recognition. Many teachers will say this, that moment when the person that you're sharing guidance with, they get it and they go, oh, right? And something clicks and you see the joy come out of them, going from frustration of like, oh, I'm trying, I don't get it, especially skiing. Like little kids are so frustrated because like, oh, this isn't working, or adults, they're even worse. But then when it works. And they go, oh, this is fun, right? So it was an evolution. And as I said, I've been passionately pursuing my own development and growth and learning, and went, oh, wow, I can share this wisdom through my own personal journey. And it's fun. It's so fun.
Well, and if it wasn't, I would want to know why you bothered doing it. Now, my gift is sharing about focus ministries. And focus ministers, as you know, are ministers who don't have a brick and mortar church or a congregation. We have a special focus to our ministry, and mine is education, and that's what this program is about. How do you describe Radiant Joy as a ministry? Where's your ministry in that? Because that's what I see.
It's in my being. I love life. Makes me cry when I just say this. I love to be silly, be goofy, make other people smile, whether it's just smiling at somebody at the grocery store, whether it's making somebody laugh. I love to see someone else light up, because then it lights me back up. Really. So it's this self-refilling prophecy of, I start out as joy, I share it, somebody else reflects it back, so then I am filled up some more.
So what I'm hearing you say is that your students benefit, and that's the fringe benefit of the result of you getting to be a teacher.
And not just my students, like everywhere I go, right?
Everyone you encounter is one of your students, I think.
Yes.
And I know your focus is women, but is it women in any particular category? How do you go about identifying prospective folks to work with, to coach?
They naturally find me because of the things that I talk about, the things that I share in my women's networking groups, the posts that I put on social media. It's when somebody recognizes inside him or herself, this isn't what I thought my life would look like. Why am I so frustrated? Why am I feeling resentful at my partner? In my case, why am I numbing myself with alcohol or Netflix or reading books nonstop for 3 nights in a row instead of doing other things? It's that question that comes up of, why is this not working the way I want it to work? And I have provided from my own experience, hey, are you questioning this? Or have you considered questioning this in your life? And so it opens up conversations when someone says, hey, Lara's been through that, or that was a good suggestion that she just had of how I could look at how can I create joy in my life without having to go on vacation? How can I have little bits of happiness here and there throughout my day? Maybe I should talk to her a little more about that.
And if someone came to that decision, how would they go about reaching you?
Oh, you're so funny. My email is lara@radiantjoycoaching.com. And I love having that initial conversation with people to just say, hey, what's up in your world? What's working? What's not? And if it's not, what do you wish it would look like? And let's see if together we can create that path for you to get there. Because everybody's what my best life looks like is different, right? And what is the best version of me is different for everyone, because we are all so different and we have different backgrounds and experiences and parents or not that we bring to our every moment of every day. Wherever we go, we bring ourselves with ourselves. And so what we think is a perfect day, what we think would be the perfect life, we all have our own definitions.
So I'm thinking that given your serial entrepreneurial background, it's kind of hard to imagine anybody who could come to you with a challenge that you couldn't figure out a way to identify with it. And that's probably the key to helping them figure out how to figure it out for themselves.
And some people are just looking for some ideas, and I'm happy to share ideas. And other people recognize that I really want to make a significant change, and I don't know how to go about doing that. And that's where, like any expert that you hire, whether it's an accountant to do your taxes or your financial advisor to help you in your investments, or going to the gym because you want to really strengthen and tone up, you look for somebody that has the expertise or the experience in whatever that area is. And so for me, that's why I'm really comfortable working with women. I'm really comfortable working with women who have struggled with their own self-worth, their self-value, with women who, especially moms, who feel like I got to take care of my kids and my husband, and I got to juggle and this and that. And they forget that they have to take care of themselves first so that they can take care of everyone else. And these are all of the things that I personally can look back on and say, yeah, that didn't work so well when I was giving out there without giving here first. And I can help shine a light where someone is doing something that is not in their own self-interest, but they're not even realizing that that's where they're falling short. That, like, we have symptoms, the doctor will look at what are the symptoms going on, but now what's causing that symptom. And the same thing in our lives. So whether it's over drinking, whether it's somebody that's, just going out and partying too much and not putting attention to other areas of their lives, or a serial dater that can't quite find that perfect relationship. Okay, so there's a symptom, but we got to look at what's underneath that's driving that behavior.
And I'm wondering, what's the biggest challenge that you have in getting people to accept the idea, much less the practice, of self-care?
Well, the first place is I changed it around a little bit, and I call it, let's call it care of self, because there is such definition, stigma around self-care as being self-centered and selfish, instead of that theory of you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. And the reality is, self-care is taking care of me, is my oxygen, not I'm just putting the mask on. It is what is fueling me. And so if we can redefine care of self, what does that look like? And then here's the natural consequences in a positive way or in a negative if we're not, right? It's helping to redefine what it looks like and why it matters.
Okay, now one of the things that was a challenge for me years and years and years ago in the previous century was believing that what mattered to me, what made me smile, what made me feel warm and gooey inside, that had validity in the world, that it was worth doing. How do you address that? Because I don't think I'm the only person who ever thought that.
So again, it's going back to your definition and your belief system that you may not even be aware is that undercurrent of your own value and your personal self-worth. And it took me years to realize that I really didn't know how to value myself. I didn't know what it looked like to put myself first and why it mattered. And I always knew I was a helper. I knew that I loved to make other people smile by doing things for them. Let me get you a glass of water while I'm up. Let me do this for you before you even ask. I prided myself on, oh, I see my kid came to the table without a fork, and while I'm in the kitchen, I will grab it and bring it, right? Because I have that foresight. I can see. And it was an outward, I would get a thank you.
Mhm.
And it was an outward validation that I had value because of what I did. And it took a long time to realize I have value just because I am. And shifting that, and it takes a lot to figure out the like, why do I have this going on and why is it? And there's just lots of different tools and exercises to help uncover, because we each have our own belief, we have our own limiting beliefs, we have our own definitions. And so for each person, it's different. And it's asking really good questions to get deeper and deeper and deeper. And what was really fun was when I realized it brings me joy to help people, but I don't need them to say thank you to feel the joy. And so just stopping that I have to receive it back, it feels great, but that's not the motivation anymore.
So what kind of tools do you use to help other people make that discovery in a shorter period of time than it took you and me?
Well, here's what I find is so ironic is I, for years, said I didn't like to write. I'm not a journaler. I'm never going to write a book. I don't like to write. I don't write well. And I have found that one of the best tools is asking yourself a question. And as you and I talked prior to coming on, listening to that still small voice within ourselves, answering for ourselves and asking really good questions to dig deep. Why do I do this? Why don't I do this? And, in whatever the topic, the area is asking those questions that help to open up an awareness around an area that someone may not even recognize that, oh, I didn't even know that was not that it was a problem, but I didn't even realize that was what was driving my behavior in the first place. So lots of question and answer. I only provide tools to help somebody ask and go within themselves. Each one of us, we have our own answers. We just sometimes need help of knowing the right questions to ask and in the right order, and how often to be asking those questions and not to just stop when we come to the first answer, but to keep going and going deeper.
Oh, now it sounds to me like you're sneaking over into Robert's territory there, because that's starting to sound like visioning to me. Does that come up towards once the situation has been identified and you've started dealing with, is visioning one of the tools that you use to help people figure out where to go forward, how to go forward?
I'm more of the visualizer, right? I like to say, okay, what would bring you joy? What would you love to be experiencing in this area? Like, here's where it is right now, but what would be the most magnificent? And start painting that picture of, even if it's totally outrageous, because quite often that feels uncomfortable to get into the total, like, I could have that. I never thought about it before, right? We have to expand our thinking to outside of the limited boundaries we've created for ourselves for what's possible, and explore, expand, and like, wow. And then once you planted that seed of possibility, then from there allows that next steps of, okay, if that's where I want to go and this is where I'm at, what could be one small step, one action, right? Because with everything is action. First, you have to identify where you're at, where you want to go, and what would be that next first step. And the biggest challenge is people just having the clarity of there's somewhere else to go. And then, okay, sometimes that seems like so far away. What's the smallest thing that I can get into movement? And I personally had a challenge with failing. And over time, I have come to so many different definitions of fail. First attempt in learning. I was introduced when our oldest was going into 6th grade to Dr. Carol Dweck's work about Dweck's work about growth mindset. The book was titled Mindset. And the school environment said, we believe in growth mindset. We want your kids to fail early, and fail often, because we have created a container to help them learn how to learn and grow from that, because it's not a failure. It's, as you shared earlier, it's just the first step in realizing that didn't work. That didn't work the way I wanted it to. That didn't work the way I thought it would. So how can I learn from that and take my next step? And that was a huge awareness from me, because I had adopted early on, don't make mistakes. Do it right the first time. And if I had any fear about, well, I wasn't going to be able to do it right the first time, sometimes I wouldn't do it at all. And so having this awareness from my own journey, I can help support people in having that fear of, but what if I make a mistake? Oh, well, cool. That's just feedback.
So basically what you're helping them to do is to build an internal bumper car, the one that runs into the wall and backs up and turns and runs into the wall and backs up and turns and runs into the wall and backs up and turns until it finds a road.
Yes, I hadn't thought of it that way. But right, we have to feel safe in taking that first step. And if it didn't go the way you thought it would, it's just feedback. It's not failure. It's right. Okay. So you bounced off the wall. Now let's turn the car a little bit and bounce off that wall until exactly.
Okay. All right. So there are a handful of questions I ask all of my guests. And so I'm just, and the questions don't change. Even when people come back, I get different answers, because nobody is, you can't step in the same river twice. So here's the first one, which always makes people laugh, but sometimes I get really great answers. Is there anything that you want the listeners, the viewers, to know about you and what you do that I haven't asked you about yet?
There's so much. But if I had 1 minute, I would say you are your most important responsibility. Figuring out what makes you tick, figuring out what brings you joy, figuring out how to start on the path, if you haven't already, of becoming the best version of you, so you can have the best life possible for you. Defining what would those be, and then, okay, it could be a really big leap. So what would be the first step? Because there's so many areas of ourselves that it covers. So what would be one step towards that? Making myself my most important responsibility. What would one step, one activity that I could start today? And I shared, I wish I had taken a picture of my mom's yard when it was full of pine cones. My mom doesn't bend down very well. So she has a picker, and she would pick up the pine cones, and either if it was a shady area and she knew that they wouldn't grow, she would toss them into the garden. If it was an area that was full sun and she didn't want pine trees growing in her garden, she collected in a bucket. And she would, just as she was walking along and enjoying the garden with her neighbor friend, they walk every morning and look at everything that's coming up. She would just pick up one here, one there, as she went along. And I didn't go out and walk with her for a week. And after 1 week, I said, did your neighbor come by with her riding tractor and pick up the pine cones? And she said, no, I've just been picking a little bit up here and there every day for the past week. And it so validated visually for me the power of one little action repeated over time has a huge impact over time. That it may not seem like it's much of a first step, but when you keep taking either the next step or repeating that one step every day, like I'm going to start taking a 10-minute walk every day after dinner, get fresh air, move my body, help me go to, right? Over time, your body is going to respond, and you may not notice anything for the first week. Maybe you're sore, doing a new activity, but over time, it has that compound effect. So take that one first step and then take the next one and the next one and the next one.
All right. Okay. Well, that was a great one. All right. Here's the next one. How does what you do with Radiant Joy encourage, enhance, develop, promote, pick your own verb, conscious evolution?
Because I like to think I ask good questions, and I help people start to question in their own lives, whatever the topic is. Am I getting enough rest? Am I setting myself up for success? Am I taking good care of my physical body? Am I taking good care of the food that comes into my mental and spiritual body? Right? So as I ask questions, as I share my message, I'm trusting that it starts within the listener, their own growth and evolution to, as I said, the best version of themselves and the best life they could possibly live for themselves.
All righty then. Now, the next question sounds kind of like that one, but it's not quite the same. How does what you do with Radiant Joy encourage, enhance, unveil, promote, pick your own verb, world peace?
Because when I'm happy, when I'm calm, when I'm at peace, that ripples out to the people in my environment. So if I'm driving down the road and I'm calm and somebody cuts me off and I allow, then no road rage needs to happen. If I'm calm in the grocery store and I smile at the cashier who's tired and just had an unhappy customer, then maybe I just picked that cashier up for a moment for the next person behind me. When I share a smile and I pick somebody up for just that moment, that uplifting carries on to the next person. It's that ripple effect of the pebble in the pond. And so I see it as I love the expression, do what you can with what you have right where you are. And knowing that as I do that here and it ripples out, then, you don't know how far that ripple is going to go. It might be just one ring and then it stops, but it might uplift somebody. If you give a helping hand or something, it might go 10 ripples out. And then it just keeps their ripple goes out. And I love the expression, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yep.
So as I lift up my neighbor, hopefully they're lifting up their neighbor, and so on and so on.
I like it. Okay, now here's the one most people like the best. You might want to close your eyes for this one because it requires imagination.
Okay.
Provided that everything goes exactly the way you want it to go, every little detail, every event, every experience, every relationship unfolds exactly the way you want it to go. 10 years from now, what does Radiant Joy look like?
Whew. I'm so glad you asked. So my website is a platform for all kinds of self-development, group coaching, teaching, supporting each other. I get to speak on stages, virtual and in person, all around the globe, helping individuals learn how to shine the light within the dark places in themselves, how to create joy on a daily basis, one little action at a time, whether it's watching a cat video that made them smile, or whether it's dancing, or whether it's they decide to paint because of whatever it is, that I get to be in a place where my ripple is big and lots of people are waking up to their own joy that it's already inherent within. It's just things get covered up. So you and I help shine the light in those dark places to say, hey, I just have to peel back some of this stuff and reveal my gifts, my talent, my joy, my whatever it is for each person. So yeah, I'm excited. It's like so fun and so big, and so many people are going to be laughing and dancing and going out there and bringing their gifts to the world.
Outstanding. Okay, here's the last question. Will you come back?
I would love to. This was fun.
My next opening is January 14th. Can I pencil you in?
Absolutely.
And our, just so that everybody knows, our next person up is Reverend Dr. Lara Mock. She is the director, I think it's the director, of the Vistara School of Wisdom in North Carolina. So you don't want to miss next week, because she's fascinating, and the whole idea is marvelous. And besides, I just love her. So, you know, you could plug every name I've had on here into that sentence and it would work. So, because I have the best job in the world, you know, this is so cool. And so thank you all for joining us, and thank you so much. All next time. Bye-bye.
Amazing, amazing, you will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing.